Mr. President, I would ask unanimous consent that I be permitted to enter into a colloquy with my Republican colleagues for up to 30 minutes.
Without objection, so ordered.
And Senator Cornyn could join us, we'd be pleased. But, Mr. President, the debt situation that we're in today is the most serious our nation has ever faced. A lot of people don't understand it and don't understand how serious it is. I have tried to look at creation of a budget that would balance in 10 years, bring us into balance in 10 years. It's hard to do. It absolutely can be done. It takes some real effort, but it can be done, and we can do it, and we've got to do it. The debt trajectory path we're on is unsustainable. And tomorrow, I have to say, tomorrow will mark the 800th day that this Senate has not had a budget. We're borrowing 40 cents out of every dollar we spend, and we've gone this long without a budget. There's no plan, apparently, to present one. The chairman of the Budget Committee, where I'm ranking Republican, tells us that he's got one, that he's talked to his colleagues, and they've agreed on it, but it remains secret. The Congressional Budget Act explicitly says we should have a budget by April 15th. It said the committee should begin markup April 1st. Well, we've not called the committee and not had a markup, and apparently there's no plan to. We're just going to wait and see if secret negotiations could produce something. That's not acceptable at a time in which the debt is the primary threat to the health, security, and welfare of our nation. There's no doubt about it. And so we've had nothing on the floor of the Senate except now a resolution saying we should tax the rich. A sense of the Senate that has no power, no binding authority, no numbers, no how much we're going to tax the rich, just that kind of thing. So, Mr. President, we're in a serious condition. I think the American people, if they understood how little has been done in this body this year on the most important issue facing this country, they would be even more dissatisfied with the United States Congress than they are. More dissatisfied, at least, with the Senate. Because I have to say, my colleague, our new senator from Missouri, is not new to Congress. He was the Republican whip in the House of Representatives, and the House has passed a budget this year, an honest budget, a budget that changes the debt trajectory of America in a solid way and would put us on a new path for prosperity. Everybody doesn't have to agree with everything in it, but they met their responsibility by April 15th. So it's great to be with Senator Blunt. We are so pleased to have him in the Senate, but I would just ask him if he would share his thoughts at this time.
You know, there's that old adage, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And it sure looks like to me that's on the trajectory we're on right now. Members are more and more talking about, well, maybe we'll have another continuing resolution this year. That'll be the appropriations process because we have no plan. And of course, as you pointed out, as a person who knows as much about the budget process as anybody in Washington, we passed the April 1 deadline, and then we passed, I guess, a May 1 date, and then we passed a June 1 date, and now we've passed a July 1 date, and we're up to that 800th day since the Senate passed a plan, since the Senate had a plan of any kind, and we're waiting for a plan to move forward with the other work of just funding the government, and clearly that's not acceptable. It's we see the economy, I think, continuing to wait for some signs of certainty from the federal government, certain about what our budget's going to be, certain about what our tax structure is going to be, certain about regulations and utility bills, and we're just not seeing that happen. And in fact, things are getting progressively worse and worse. Has there ever been a time when the Senate didn't even attempt to have a budget?
There's to my knowledge, no time since I've been here that the Senate did not attempt to pass a budget. The first 2 years, under the last 2 years, even when our Democratic colleagues had 60 votes, the largest majority, I guess, almost in recent memory in the Senate, they did not attempt to bring a budget to the floor last year. A budget did go to committee. It was marked up by Senator Conrad. It came to the floor, but Majority Leader Reid decided not to bring it up. This year, I think at his decision, probably, it seems to be so, Senator Conrad was told not to have a markup, not to even produce a budget in committee. How would you evaluate the fact that for 2 years, tomorrow, 800 days without a budget, what does it say about the leadership that we've seen here in the Senate?
Well, it shows we have 800 days without a budget, but basically we have 800 days without any structured process of how we spend the people's money. 800 days where, well, let's just go to the last time we could come up with an appropriations process, and we'll modify that a little bit and move forward. And that clearly is not good enough. And in that 800 days, as you pointed out, in that 800 days, we've gone to where we're now, we've added 35% in a little over 800 days, 35% in 2.5 years to the federal deficit.
Senator Johnson, as a new member of the Senate, I'd love to hear your comments about where you think we are today and how you feel about it.
Well, Senator Sessions, first of all, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I know you've been talking loud and clear about the fact that we should not have recessed this week. And I know President Obama tried to claim credit for that, but it's because of your leadership and really the members of the Republican conference here in the Senate that we said, no, we're bankrupting America. We need to stay here and we need to start debating this issue. And unfortunately, that is not really what we've been doing this week. It's sad. But, you know, one word that I use all the time now that I've come here to Washington is unbelievable. I mean, it's simply unbelievable that tomorrow will mark 800 days that we haven't passed a budget. That's unbelievable. Really, I think the Senate has been guilty of willful neglect. I think the phrase I've been using, the Senate has been fiddling while America's going broke, and that's sad. And now I think, as you pointed out as well, what does the financial future of America rest on? Some secret talks? Talks between a few individuals going on behind closed doors, far from the view of the American public. You know, and rather than an orderly process where a plan is presented that can be viewed by the American public, that can be debated in open, the way our founders envisioned on the floor of the Senate, this historic floor, instead of using the process that we should have been using, what's going to happen? Are we going to have a result, a negotiated settlement, dropped in our lap, what, a couple days before, you know, this deadline date? Is that what's going to happen? Is that really how the financial fate of America is going to be decided? That's kind of how I'm thinking.
Yeah. Senator Sessions,
yes.
let me say about that, I'd like to say to both you and Senator Johnson, who were primary leaders in this idea that we shouldn't go home, that Republicans shouldn't vote to adjourn, that you were going to object to things that didn't relate to the business we need to do. And of course, that's right. And as you were talking, Senator Johnson, I was thinking the other deadline, the other April the 15th deadline, every American had better comply with that one. And it's in the law just like the one that we're supposed to comply with. What if everybody in America decided they were going to miss their legal deadline as well? Okay, we're not going to have a budget, we're not going to pay our taxes. Of course, they'd be in big trouble. And the Senate's not in trouble, but the country is in trouble because the Senate's not doing its job.
Really, we have to change, and I believe that we can, and we're going to keep fighting toward that end.